Welcome, everybody, to our podcast. Thank you, George, for your time. It's great to have you on.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited to be here. And just a quick introduction. I was actually born and raised in a little town called Wonder Lake, Illinois, about 40 miles north of Chicago. And it's funny, people ask where we're from, and we always say Chicago because nobody knows where Wonder Lake is. And it's about the farthest from a city town as you can get. About what there's two stop signs and no stoplights. So, grew up on a lake there, and I learned all the water sports at a very young age, which took me into my profession of, professional water skiing. And right now I'm actually in Tennessee in my RV. We were in Kentucky last night, and, traveling down to Florida right now, getting out of the city. So really excited to be here today.
George, my name is Dan. It's a pleasure to meet you. And I'm going to be getting to know you along with our audience as we have this conversation today. So a lot of places I could go, but I am curious, are you traveling for fun, or are you traveling because you're part of a league or you're participating in something? Why the travel different places?
Huge bucket list. It was on my bucket list for a long time to just get an RV one day and just sell everything and hit the road and enjoy myself. All those things that we dream about doing when we retire. I just decided I could implement my work with my family, which is spread out all over the United States, and friends I've met over the years. So I'm on a 1 year to 2 year quest of just touring the United States, visiting with friends, and I stop when I need to work. And I had a goal this year of seeing 100 friends that I hadn't seen in years, and of course COVID and the situation kind of slowed things down. But that's my goal, is to visit friends that I haven't seen in a long time and keep those connections going, and my work going at the same time. So really more enjoyment than anything else right now.
I'm not familiar, so share with us, what is your work that allows you to go around? I know a lot of people can work remote now, but what is your work?
Yeah, I own a credit repair company. So I help people that have had credit challenges in the past, mainly working with real estate agents and mortgage brokers when people try to, get their financing and might have a couple challenges. And I do a lot of work in the solar industry now too, as people are trying to qualify and, get their solar systems put on their house. So, I help people repair their credit so they can qualify for better interest rates and programs.
Speaking of your traveling in your RV, what is your favorite place you've visited so far?
It's really great. I've had the opportunity to travel a lot over the years, mainly domestically and mainly by road. Whether it was car or RV, and I've always loved to travel. And I've been just about everywhere in the United States except for Alaska. And the last places I had never been was to the Northeast. And so that was another bucket list for this year, was traveling to the Northeast in October. And I've got another couple great water ski friends that live up in Maine. So we RV'd all the way up through New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine in October of this year, just a couple, last month. And it was spectacular, up to Acadia National Park and all the way up to the tip of Maine. Took an airplane flight over it, and it was absolutely amazing.
So as you're up north in October, were you wearing full wetsuits and going out on lakes and still doing water sports during that time?
No, actually, this was just visitation. Since I retired from professional water skiing, cold weather and cold water is not a part of my makeup. So it was really just a lighthouse and lobster trip.
Gotcha. So one of the reasons Ivy and I do this podcast is because we want to give our listeners access to people they wouldn't typically come across in regular life, right? Unless they're one of your 100 friends that you're now revisiting or reconnecting with. So in any case, we're going to ask you a series of questions, and with all one encompassing theme. We want to help people live their best life. And we feel the best way for them to be able to do that is to meet new people and hear their stories and hear how they answer questions, and very similar questions for each person. So Ivan, I like to always start with this one question, which is, if I was a genie and I could grant you one wish, what would be that wish and why? Let me give you a couple of rules though. One is you can't wish for more wishes. That's cheating the system. And you can't become the wish giver. But really what we're after is, and maybe you're doing it right now, but is there something that maybe I always wanted to do that? Or maybe you started something, you tried and you failed, or maybe you thought the probability is too, like, why even try? But as a genie, I could just grant you the wish. What would be that wish for you?
It's funny because what what really comes to mind, because I'm really living my best life right now, and it's been challenging, and there's been major, major life obstacles to overcome to get to this point. But if I was to pinpoint one thing, is I wish I would have learned more about finances and how to handle finances, and to know about credit and what's going to give me the ability to save the most amount of money over the years. Is I just wish I would have got a little bit more educated on credit card use, all of those things over the years. And of course we go through our stages in life where you got to have this and you got to have that. And I'm at a minimalistic life right now, but it all takes wisdom, and going through a lot of ups and downs. But if I would have had a little bit more financial smarts in my life, it would have just put me in a little bit better position as of this point in my life. But that would probably be the biggest thing if it just pops to mind.
That's awesome. And that's very, very wise of you to wish for that, because oftentimes people who it's not on their radar to think about their wealth or money until it's too late, unless they've been exposed to it at a young age. If it's like your family's, has that mindset of knowing how to accumulate wealth and know how to invest and know how to do stuff with their money. Speaking of that, what is one of your biggest failures and how did you overcome it? What did you learn from that lesson?
Failures, man, there's been so many, but they're in so many different aspects of my life. And I think one of my big failures was really going through so many ups and downs in my life, is losing trust in my own abilities and my own self, and not maintaining a personal growth and development program at all times. Like I love how Zig Ziglar says, I get hungry every day, so I eat every day. Well, we feed our bodies because we have to, but we forget to feed our minds, and then we start drifting away. So really losing that after multiple attempts at different business opportunities and different things. I really got lost, and it was really part of that personal growth and development, and keeping that going on a daily basis.
Talking about feeding your mind, imagine you're in your RV and that's where that's your home for the rest of your life. But the rule is you can only have one book with you in your RV for this remainder. What book do you put in your RV and why that book?
Right off the top of my head, for me, it's a little tiny book called God Winks, because I went through my life never really recognizing the God winks in my life, and they happen every day, all day. That I keep my consciousness with the blessings of my life through that little book. So it's just called God Winks. It's just a little tiny book, but really, really good. It's insights and stories, definite stories of people that didn't realize the God winks in their life till, they looked back and said, my gosh, this is just too weird. And this kind of stuff just shouldn't happen at this particular moment, or that phone call that comes when you're thinking about somebody, or whatever the case might be that the universe delivers to us. This has been a year for me of putting things out there, like things that I wanted to accomplish this year, whether it was financially or my RV or these travel trips. They were all on paper before I knew how I was going to accomplish them. And that's why this year we looked back at my journal for the year, and it was just like, wow, man, we set this one and this one and this one, and then everything just fell into place without um, any fear, of failure, because it was boiled on complete faith that if these things were in place, everything's going to fall into place, or else they're not the right things that you want in your life. If you're pushing, I know for me, if I'm ever pushing for something, it's, I want that car, but all the pieces aren't falling into place, and it's not easy. It's usually something I'm forcing because it's a want versus just letting things happen.
So one of my favorite movies, George, is Back to the Future, and the ability to travel in a time machine. So let's imagine you had a time machine like them, but you traveled to the future. You traveled 5 years into the future, and now you have a chance to look back on the last 5 years and see everything that you've accomplished or done. What would you hope that has happened, transpired? What have you accomplished in those 5 years?
From a business standpoint, my goal is to now, instead of be doing what I'm doing and helping each individual, is I'm now moving into where I train corporate companies on how to have their own credit division to handle their clients that have credit challenges. So I'm teaching and training now individuals to become credit experts, to be able to, take their clients and keep them in house. So if I was looking 5 years into the future, I'd love to have, 100 companies of people that I've trained to be experts, to help people with the number one financial tool that they possess. Just most people don't realize it's the number one tool. So from a business standpoint, that's where I'm at. From a personal standpoint, this is my year of health. I'm just going to completely dive in. I'm 58 years old now, and I'm still skiing, but not like I used to. When you start pushing that, you start getting hurt when you're going that fast, and so I've calmed down. But it's really going to be a year of health, eating correctly, making sure I'm doing yoga. These things that have eluded me, even with my addictive personalities, but I just haven't been able to get addicted to those things, which is what my whole journal says. I'm going to get addicted to yoga. Because for a guy like me to slow down my mind for any amount of the day is a major accomplishment. So, 5 years in the future, I just want to be in the great shape. I got 3 grandsons, now that I can't wait for the day that I'm out there fishing or skiing with those kids. And, how much it's meant to me to still have my dad around, at 85, 86 years old. And so, yeah, 5 years into the future, it's going to be a wild ride. That's for sure. Because the last 5 to 7 years was an amazing, crazy ride.
Adventurous is in your DNA for sure, because just even the mindset of water skiing helped me understand that mindset.
For me, I grew up on a lake, in the north, in the Midwest, which was awesome because we got to play hockey and ice skate and do all that stuff in the winter, and then in the summer we learned to water ski at a very young age. And in the Midwest and in different parts of the country, there are water ski clubs or teams that get together in the summers, and that's their summer activity, is doing ski shows for their local communities, on their local lake for the 4th of July and Memorial Day, and they'll put on a little ski exhibition. Well, this has evolved over the years into competitiveness and, competing for the nationals every year in a show capacity. So being what we call a show skier, we do a little bit of every kind of aspect of water skiing, from your traditional slalom skiing to barefoot water skiing with no skis, to going over the ski jump, to having to do a vast amount of disciplines in water skiing. So once it gets in your blood, I was a fisherman and a sailor until I became about 12 or 13. And when I started barefoot water skiing and going over the ski jump, and I was able to join that ski club, I was addicted. I wanted to ski every single day, and that's all I wanted to do. And I had a couple of other people from Wonder Lake that were professional water skiers at SeaWorld in Orlando already. So I had my sights set very early in my junior high days that I wanted to become a professional water skier at some point.
In the credit repair business, is that accurate? Is that the right way to say it? Repair? Okay.
Yep.
I'm semi-familiar with it. I know that you probably have many competitors or many people advertising out there for some sort of credit repair service. What is bad advice that you hear given that you want to warn people about? Like, hey, if somebody tells you this, run for the hills, or don't do this instead.
For me, it's the way that the business is done these days. Client acquisition in any business is important. I think we would all agree. The challenge with credit repair companies today is most of them have gone to this thing where they'll sign people up for the repair and charge on a monthly basis. So you'll be paying a certain fee on a monthly basis. I don't believe that they've brought their processes up to speed, and they're really stringing people out month after month after month to collect that monthly payment, not really getting a personal experience. So my advice is if you're going to get your credit work done, I personally, it's just a personal opinion, I would avoid that. I do a one-time fee. It's a very discounted fee, which means we're going to get the work done and we're going to get it done now. And we're going to personally walk them through with me as their personal coach exactly how to take their, I hate to even say credit repair because it's really restoration. Repair is just part of that restoration process.
Being unfamiliar with this to an extent, when somebody pays you the discounted fee that they pay you, do they pay you upfront? And if they already have bad credit, how do they afford to pay up front? That's my question. Or do they pay you in the back end? Like, what's the structure, or is there a guarantee if it doesn't work? Like, what do you do that's different that you'd say, hey, avoid this monthly payment thing, pay my discounted flat fee, but how is it better from an affordability or make sense perspective for them?
We charge a flat rate normally of around $499. So these other companies that are charging 89 to whatever, they're stretching people out for 6 months or a year. So it's going to cost them more money in the long run. Now, when it gets discounted to that fee, people are getting serious about getting their credit fixed up. And when they want something, they'll come up with $200, $300, $400, $500 to get it done. Where we will work on 100% of their credit report right out of the gate. So what we do to answer all those kind of multiple questions in one is, the first thing I do is an analysis on their credit, full analysis, exactly what they're going to need. And I come from 10 years in the mortgage business too. So I know credit reports, and I know the strategies and the things that people need to have a well-rounded credit score. So what we'll do is, instead of stringing people out month after month, we're going to work 100% of the report right out the gate. It's about a 90-day process total, start to finish. Now, does everybody get to a 750 or 800 credit score in 90 days? No, absolutely not. It takes work sometimes. I was my first client. When I speak to clients, I'm like, it was unfortunately the second time in my life I went through a credit issue. But we do an analysis for $1, lay out the whole plan, exactly the strategies, and then if they decide to move forward, we create their orders for the credit bureaus. They pay us the fee. If we don't improve their credit, we refund the fee. So if there's no improvement, if there's no removal, if there's nothing that happens, we 100% refund the money, no questions asked. And luckily, guys, I've had 8 refunds in 8 years. So we've done fairly well as far as being able to, make sure that people are getting the proper results. Because, guys, the majority of my business is referrals that come from real estate agents or mortgage companies or solar companies. They want to close their deal. These people want to buy their home or get their solar system. So it's our job as a referral-based business to do the best job as quick as we can to get the end result, which is keys in your hand or a solar system lowering your electric bill. So if we're not doing that, we're not getting the repeat referral business from our clients. And luckily, we've been able to do a really good job at that so far.
I like that business model. And it's very practical to just do the one-time fee versus stringing them out. Curious about this. What habits or beliefs have shaped you to who you are today?
Obviously, faith. Faith for sure, which has always gone up and down, guys. I was brought up Catholic. I was brought up in a very different belief that I have today of my spirituality. But faith without works is dead also. So when I don't stay on top of it, and that's just something that's really important to me. And then of course my mentors over the years, between one of my best friends in the world who, was a recovering addict and alcoholic as well, and led me down some roads. He was written up in Zig Ziglar's book, and he turned me on to Zig Ziglar. And that daily input. So my routine is very unroutine, except in my mornings. My mornings are very routine. I get up, I make a cup of coffee, I grab my journal before I open up my phone, before I turn on a TV if I want to see a little news, which I rarely watch, but I will journal. I'll journal about my day before, I'll journal about today, and I'll also journal about, just what I want. Hey, I have a thing that just says lucky caller today. And my lucky caller today is just a referral. It's just the person that's going to get lucky enough to talk to me so that they're going to be on the right track to getting their credit back to where they want it to be. And it's just a little thing, but it's funny how when I do it all the time, it seems like, oh yeah, there's that one. It just came in. And so journaling to me is really, really important in setting those goals.
I like Zig Ziglar as well. I can think back to my first sales job as an adult. I sold cars, and I read the book, The Secrets to Closing the Sale by Zig Ziglar. And I kept referring back to it. Every time I have a new client come in, I kept referring back to that book, be like, oh, what did I learn there? And what could I apply from what he taught and things like that? I thought it was very applicable. So no, he has I'll say a superpower of taking something that's complex and making it simple. Have you ever had a desire for a superpower? Like, what would be your superpower if you could have just one?
I think it would be to fly. Yeah, I think if I could fly and just snap myself to different places as quickly as I can, because the older we get, the more we figure out that we're losing time, to be able to visit people and travel and do the things that we want to do. So I think flying would be pretty cool.
I also would love to fly. I'm curious, have you ever done that water sport where they shoot you up in the air with those like jet things on your feet?
Yeah, I've done that, and I've done some hang gliding too, where you have a kite on your back and you go on your skis first, and the boat takes you up, and then you release from the boat and fly down. So that's definitely on my radar to do a little bit more flying. I want to get a powered parachute, which is the fan on your back with the parachute, so that we can just, like, right now I'm in a place called Douglas Lake, just absolutely beautiful. You can take your kite out and just go fly around the lake, and but flying, I think, would be pretty cool.
That is very cool. What is the best advice you can give to our audience about living your best life?
Never quit. Never quit. I mean, man, from right out of high school, when I, getting beat up and bullied in high school as being a little guy, and, going into a sport that really took, some size and some muscle and strength. And I was not a big guy when I came out of high school. And, I struggled for everything I did, I really had to work my tail off. And I've had my ups and downs, and some of them super, super high and super, super low, but, I I always relate that to, I think that I'm experiencing such a great life now because I've been so low before, and I've tried so many different things, but never give up on what you're trying, because you'll go, it's just not worth it. It's not worth going through what I went through. That's for sure. When I figured I just didn't have anything left in the tank, you know, and you always do. And you always have people behind you that care about you, even if you start forgetting to care about yourself, you know. So I'm just, don't quit, set your goals, even as crazy as they are, even if you don't even know how you're going to accomplish them. We chatted just very briefly about that invention I had last time we talked, and it was a complete accident. I didn't have no idea what I was doing. I just knew it was a great idea, and maybe, it would turn into something, and it was just a blast and something I'll never forget.
I didn't get to hear about your invention, so I want to hear about it. What is this invention that you came up with?
We used to go to the sand dunes out in California all the time with our dirt bikes and our quads and all of that stuff. And so I created it was a wheel chock, which holds your motorcycle in place on a trailer. So it doesn't fall over and you don't have to, strap it down with 40 straps. And all the ones that were on the market had to be bolted in place. So you would have to drill holes in your new trailers and all your stuff and mount it in one place. And I ended up creating one that was completely portable. So I could just set it down wherever I wanted to put my motorcycle. I would set it on the ground and roll my bike on it, and it would work without being bolted. So it was just taking a product going from something that had to be permanent to something that was completely 100% portable.
Is that something that you now sell, or is it just for yourself?
I actually created a patent and created a company. It was called Easy Chalk. And I ended up, it became Motocross Magazine Product of the Year that year. And I ended up selling it off, and I sold the patent with it. And so I just earn a residual on the sales based on the company that bought my patent and everything.
That's great. So you have so many cool things that I think our listeners could benefit from contacting you. So let's kind of go through them. So you just mentioned the motorcycle invention. How would somebody go about getting one of those if they wanted to buy one of those right now?
That's actually by just going to the internet and looking up a company called Kuryakin.com. And then, that's something I sold a few years back, but you can contact them if you got bikes and stuff. And then for me, the best way, my company name is Credit Repair in 30, the number 30 or 30 spelled out. So creditrepair30.com.
And are there videos of you online that people can look up if they want to see you doing the cool water stuff that you've done?
If you go to YouTube and just type in George Hartman, you'll probably come up with some videos and some different things from my business and my work. But yeah, I'm on YouTube, social media channels too.
You've been amazing. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking your time to share your stories with our audience.
It was so great to catch up with you, George. I am excited that you are still on your RV adventure. Hopefully, the next time we talk, you're still on your RV adventure, but in a different part of the world.